we have a 19-year-old and she was 4 when my husband was diagnosed. And so I too have experienced the parenting, and I'm still experiencing it, the parenting while caregiving component, and really understand that. And we've done podcast episodes on that and have resources about that as well, because, you're holding it together. You're holding all the pieces together.
Yeah.
And again, to be doing all of that hard stuff and then not be seen is a special kind of hard.
Welcome to the Inheritance of Hope podcast. Every day, 562 children lose a parent to terminal illness. They shouldn't have to face that alone. You can pretend to avoid the painful realities of illness, grief, and death, or you can deal with the real stuff in caring community. On the podcast, people in Inheritance of Hope's community share raw, personal stories of pain, trials, and the shadow of death, which are also stories of joy in terminal illness. Find more Inheritance of Hope community at inheritanceofhope.org. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Inheritance of Hope podcast. My name is Ellie, and today we will be going over a helpful resource that I think a lot of people in the Inheritance of Hope world should know about. So we just wanted to give a platform and let an expert tell us all about it so that you can learn more and take advantage of such a wonderful resource. So I'll hand it over to our guest and let her introduce herself and the work that they're doing.
Thanks, Ellie. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Allison Breininger, and I am the founder and executive director of a nonprofit called The Negative Space. Our mission is to change the way caregivers of all kinds are seen and supported. Negative space is actually from the artistic concept of, which is everything that's in the background of a picture, the part of the piece of art that you maybe don't look at or pay attention to and that gets overlooked, but that is a huge and integral part of the work. And I think that I've experienced that firsthand in my life and with the caregivers I support, that we are such an important part of the picture but yet often overlooked. And so that's why we called it The Negative Space.
I love that. I was an art minor in college,
Yes.
so I love that concept of bringing kind of the practicality to
Yes.
something that's you don't really hear about in
Yeah.
day-to-day life. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And tell us a little bit about how the Negative Space came to be and why does this mission matter to you personally?
Absolutely. So I have been a caregiver for my husband, Sean, for 15 years. He's 47 and has a rare genetic disease that causes bone marrow failure and cancer at a rate of around 700 times that of the rest of us. So in my early 30s, I was thrust into this role of being his caregiver. I had no experience in that. And pretty early on, I just kind of looked around and realized like there's a lot of support for him, as there should be, and there's very little support for me. And the support that I did find, there's a lot of toxic positivity built into it, a lot of bright siding, I like to say. And so I went to a support group and the other caregivers there were like, well, I just feel blessed that I can do this. And I just feel grateful. And what about the rest of it? What about the fact that it's really hard? And I looked around and realized that at that time, this was 15 years ago, at that time, people were not really talking about how caregiving was hard. Sort of like we've seen a shift in parenting and how I feel like a while ago, people didn't talk about parenting is hard. And now that's a more acceptable conversation to have. And so I thought there's really a need here to really shine light on the struggles that a caregiver goes through when they're supporting their loved one. And yes, it can be a gift. And yes, you can be grateful for it, but it's also really hard. And the tagline we have is that I'm part of the story. The caregiver is also part of the story and has their own story to tell. And so, yes, we should focus on the person who has the diagnosis or the illness or the injury or who is aging. But there's this caregiver, and often there's multiple caregivers in the background who also have needs and also are deserving of support.
Yeah, I love how many nonprofits are born out of that feeling of, man, I wish this was in existence and it's not, so I'm going to create it. And that's the same with Inheritance of Hope. Kristen and Derek were in this situation and they were looking for resources for young families facing the loss of a parent due to terminal illness. There was none. So they created Inheritance
Just
of
made
Hope.
it. Yeah.
Yes. So now like thousands of people are receiving services that Kristen and Derek wish that they had.
Right.
And I love what you're doing. It just feels like giving people a permission slip
Yes.
for it to not be okay because it really
Yes.
isn't. And
It
there's
really
bright
isn't.
sides to everything, but it's a
Yeah.
tricky journey. And there's a permission slip for other people to express that. So I love,
Yeah.
love, love that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're fortunate that my husband actually had nonprofit background. And so when I started to think about this, he was the one who said, "I think this should be a nonprofit." And I thought, "What?" He came in with that background, and so it's been such a beautiful thing that we can work on together, and then he can use his nonprofit skills, and I was in the education, training, coaching space, and so I can use those skills, and so it just really feels like this beautiful combination of our education and our work experience and our lived experience all kind
Mhm.
of coming together to be able to create the negative space.
Yeah. What else should we know about this
Yeah.
organization?
We provide direct services to caregivers. We also have a podcast called In Sickness. It is a fellow spousal caregiver and myself, a male caregiver. And so he provides that perspective. But his wife has ME, CFS, and fibromyalgia and migraines and POTS. And so a really different story. And even though it's called In Sickness, it's not just for spouses. We cover all kinds of topics. We actually had your Jill on talking about legacy recently. And so the In Sickness podcast comes out every other week. And it's a really beautiful resource. We have 130 episodes. Attached to that, we have a virtual support group. So, what we do is it's almost like a book club. So, like the week that we had Jill on talking about legacy, a week later, when we had our support group, um, it was on that topic. And that way, people coming to the support group kind of know they don't have to listen to the podcast, but they at least know what it is we're going to talk about. And so they can decide, oh, this is one I really want to try to, prioritize and get to, or like that topic feels a little too much for me right now. That's not, I'm not going to attend. But the support groups are one of my favorite things that we do because we have people, because it's virtual, we have people from Canada and Australia and just all over and age range from like 20 to 80 and caring for all types of people and all types of illnesses and injuries and aging. And it's just a beautiful space. And like you said about like the permission slip, right? Someone will say something really hard that maybe they haven't said out loud before, and everyone is just nodding at them like, yes, me too. So that's another resource that we provide. I do one-on-one coaching for caregivers to provide support, but most people just want a place to vent to a person who gets it. We have an online resource called The Storyline. And this is something that we have created because, we can't always be available in the middle of the night at the hospital bedside. And so this is a place online for free that caregivers can go to. There's a chapter in there called Surgery Day. So let's say you're sitting in the surgery waiting room. We have created all of these resources for caregivers on that day. There are videos and pieces of writing and a podcast episode and meditations that we wrote specifically for caregivers in this moment. There's artistic creation, there's yoga, there's any type of learning style you might have.
Mm.
For surgery day, for a new diagnosis, for grief, for loneliness, for working while caregiving, all these different chapters. And all of those are waiting and accessible. So they're all the kind of thing that a caregiver can do at the hospital bedside, in the car. They're not the kind of like lie down on a yoga mat kind of thing, right? They're very accessible and designed with caregivers in mind. We have caregiver gift boxes. And the theme of those is I'm part of the story. And so if there's a person who wants to thank or recognize a person in their life who is doing this role, we have put together gift boxes that they can send. And then we do a lot of speaking and training because what we realize is it's not enough for caregivers to feel great when they're with us, that we really need to change the systems around this. And so we're doing some trainings of medical providers, medical students, faith leaders, employers, all different types of folks so that they can better see and support the caregivers that are in their realms. We actually are really excited because now we have the sign initiative called Caregivers in Focus that we have recently launched that is starting in health systems. And they are signs that say things like, hey, caregiver, you're here for your person and we're here for you. And then it has a QR code. It takes them directly to us where these signs are now up in medical spaces and infusion rooms and in waiting rooms across. I'm in Minnesota, and so we're starting in Minnesota, but we'll hope to expand just so that caregivers can look around, see that sign, and realize like, wow, somebody sees me and it acknowledges me. And then if they want, they can scan the QR code and get directly to free resources.
Yeah, like you were saying, your husband was getting a lot of support as he should. Like there's
Sure, of
no
course.
reason to like take the spotlight off him. But also, I think it's such a human desire and need to be seen and
Yes.
acknowledged and
Yep.
pursued.
Yes.
even if you aren't the one with the diagnosis, your world changes drastically.
Yes.
Yes. And
Yes.
so just even seeing a sign or being
Yes.
a part of a group with other people who understand the same things,
Yeah.
that just is so, so valuable because
Yes.
especially in the darkness, we kind of just want to
Yeah.
have someone else saying like, yeah, I'm here too. And
Right.
I get it. And so that's
Yeah.
just really beautiful work that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, caregiving can be so isolating because often caregivers are, if your person is homebound, then you're homebound and it might be not something that you feel like, I don't know anybody else who's going through this. And so when we can connect others to say, you're not the only one, like we always say, we wish no one was going through it. But
Mhm.
if we need to, if, if that's what's happening, then we're glad that we can be in it together.
So you were saying who this is for, and you had a lot of different
Yeah.
descriptors or different caregiving roles. Could you walk us through what are some of the populations that you serve?
Typically, people, they assume that it's more for cancer just because that's been my experience. We've been intentional about making all of our resources available and applicable to all types of caregivers. It's not just for spouses, it's not just for cancer, it's for really for all types. When I think about who comes to our support groups, we have parents who have kids who have cerebral palsy. We have adult children caring for parents with dementia. We have someone who's married to someone who has a spinal cord injury. Because my co-host of the podcast, his wife has ME/CFS, that's chronic fatigue syndrome. And so we have a lot of people who have that. And so really it's everybody. And we try to make it helpful, but also generic enough so that everybody can come. And the nice thing about our support groups being around a topic is that everybody can come at it from their own thing, but we come together around that topic. And so really it's for everybody. And what I love is that, you can listen to one of our podcasts. If it's not for you, that's okay. The nice thing about the support groups being virtual, as I always say, it's on Zoom. You can leave your camera off. If it's not for
Mhm.
you, hang up. No big deal. You don't have to like
Yeah.
walk out of a room, right? And so but I think that what most people find is, wow, these are my people. These are my people. These are the people who are going through it, who are thinking the same things, feeling the same things, experiencing this. And, I'm just glad that I know that they're there. Even if it's a week that they feel like, oh, I can't, caregiving means I can't get to the support group. Just knowing that there's a group of people out there that is experiencing the same thing really can, I think, change the chemistry of the caregiver or looking up and seeing that sign in the waiting room. We're measuring how many signs got scanned and how often. But to me, that's not the most important thing. It's the thing that we are going to have to find a better way to measure, which is how many people looked up, saw that sign that
Mhm.
said caregiver. Thank you. Thank you for being here with your person today. And while we're taking great care of them, we're also here to take care of you. Like what that would do to them to see it.
Yeah.
We get a lot of tears, a lot of tears from people in a way of, what? You're for me? I didn't know
Mhm.
that there was something for me. The third Friday in February is National Caregiver Day. And so we've been expanding the events that we've been having at clinics and hospitals. And we just have a table set up and we give away the free mugs that say, I'm part of the story. And every time there's caregivers who say, what? You're you're here for me. This whole table's for me.
Mhm.
And then they cry, cry, cry because they're just not used to it, sadly, right? They're going through this hardest thing and holding it all together. And to see that, wow, somebody's here for me
Mhm.
is hugely impactful.
Are there any costs or requirements or barriers that people should be aware of?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. We are a nonprofit, and so we want to make sure that finances are never a barrier. And so everything that we offer has a free option. Obviously, the podcast is free, the support groups are free, our coaching has a sliding scale down to zero. Even the boxes, if someone really wants to buy a box for a friend and the cost is prohibitive, we have a button that they can click that says, click here, we'll send the box. And then the storyline has no paywall. Everything is free. And so we just want there to be no barriers. And the fact that everything is virtual. So certainly there could be some people who have technological challenges, right? But we appreciate the fact that because it's virtual, caregivers, it's hard for them to leave their house, leave their loved one. And so by having that as a virtual option, we feel like we're able to reach more people. A lot of our caregivers are caregiving while they're on the call. You know what I mean? Like their video's off and they're feeding their person or whatever it is. And being virtual allows them to do that. And so we're really trying to find ways to make it as accessible to everyone as possible.
If someone is listening and thinks, "This could help me," what is the first step that they should take? Like, what's
Yeah.
the easiest way to connect with your organization?
For sure. So our website is thenegativespace.life. And right there at the top of the website, it says, are you here as a caregiver or here as a supporter? And if you click I'm here as a caregiver, then you find all of the things. And it's like, you want to listen to the podcast? Great. Click here. You want the storyline? Click here. You want to sign up for support group emails? Everything you might need is right there. It's kind of the menu of all the things that they can check out. And so that's where I would start at the website and then click on the For Caregivers button and that'll take you to all the things. The storyline is right there as well. And so you can start looking around and thinking like, okay, what season am I in? Am I feeling really lonely right now? Is that the thing? Or maybe you're thinking, I really like meditations. I just want to like click on the meditations button and then you see all the meditations that are there. We have things that help you fall asleep at night, right? Like we have all of the different pieces. And again, the beauty of it is they were all written specifically for caregivers.
You have been in those seats. You've been
Yes,
at bedside. You've been, I'm sure, plenty of
still
sleepless
am.
nights. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's not just a generic thing. It is, I've
Right.
been in your shoes. I still am in your shoes, and
Yes.
this is what I need. You have like day of things for
Yes.
surgery, or you can't sleep at night. Here's a
Yeah.
reason.
Exactly. And that's where this sign initiative really was born from, is from sitting in those waiting rooms year after year, or in an infusion room where we sit there for hours,
Yeah.
getting an infusion and looking around and thinking, there is nothing here for me. There's no acknowledgement of me. How powerful would it be if while we sit in here for hours, there was a sign that said, hey, caregiver, while you sit here with your person, let us take care of you. Scan here. Right? I mean,
Mhm.
so easy. It's a piece of paper, right? Because we've done all the work behind the scenes. And so, yes, a lot of this all of it was born from my personal experiences, and I'm still in the thick of it. I want to mention too, because I know a lot of the people who use your services are parents. And so we have a 19-year-old, and she was 4 when my husband was diagnosed. And so I too have experienced the parenting, and I'm still experiencing it, the parenting
Mhm.
while caregiving component, and really understand that as well. And we've done podcast episodes on that and have resources about that as well, because that's a whole, you're holding it together. You're holding all the pieces together.
Yeah.
And again, to be doing all of that hard stuff and then not be seen is a special kind of hard. And so that's why we really want caregivers and to know that we see them, know that they're not alone in this.
Yeah. Right. The inheritance of hope population kind of gets that double whammy. Some of our
Yeah.
caregivers are not only just a caregiver for their spouse, but they also have to be almost a full-time parent too.
Yes.
Maybe they work. It's a lot
Yes.
to
It's
carry.
a
It's a
lot.
heavy load.
It
So,
is. And then, with the population, a lot of the populations I work with as well is there's that anticipatory grief if it is a terminal illness. And so then you're dealing with that as well for yourself, for your loved one, but then also for your kids.
yeah.
And so it's so much to hold that, potentially in our situation, we had this, we're co-parenting situation, but then he had a bone marrow transplant when she was in kindergarten. And so it's like suddenly I was the single parent plus, doing going back and forth to the hospital, all of those things. And so it's so much, and just any kind of love and acknowledgement and support we can shower on these caregivers, we just really need to do.
Yeah. What word of encouragement or piece of advice would you share to the caregivers who are listening to this episode right now?
So many, so many. I think a big one that I'm thinking about a lot lately, because, there's so much about caregiver burnout. And I think that too often we caregivers, I'm going to include myself in this, we think, I got this. I got this. I can do it. I can totally do it. And I just think that I'm seeing so many caregivers who are just burnt to a toasty crisp, right? And then it's hard to get them back. It's hard to then what? And so I've been thinking a lot about what can we do to go sort of upstream to support caregivers earlier on. And I think part of that is, and this is so hard for a lot of us, especially in the Midwest, but maybe probably everywhere,
Mhm.
but is asking for help, right? So how can we set up systems of support early on? And we have a whole section in the storyline on creating systems of support. But I mean, I think that we think about well, I can make dinner. I can just do that laundry. But what if we delegated that to someone else? Something I'd like to say is that delegation is a form of self-care.
Mhm.
And so, we think self-care is like, I'm going to go to the spa, right? That is very unrealistic for most of us caregivers and not long lasting. But if I set up to say like, hey, community, we're going to eat dinner 3 times this week. how much time and energy and brain space did I just save for myself? And even if technically I could have made that casserole, whatever, think about the hour and a half or whatever I just got back
Yeah.
that I got to use to be with my loved one, to be with my kid, to take a nap. And so I think that we as caregivers and community members need to then show up, right? But how can we early on, right from the beginning, say, this is going to be hard. We need support. Support us now, as opposed to waiting until we can't do it anymore and then trying to rally the support.
Yeah. And the cost of delegation is vulnerability, but
Absolutely.
is that not worth it
Yeah.
when you look at the other cost of
Yeah.
you get burnt out, you can't do
Yes.
this anymore?
100%.
It's a little bit more worth it to be vulnerable if you see
Yes.
the alternative.
Yes. But what I have to say to supporters, because sometimes I've coached folks to be vulnerable and ask for help. And then their communities have just been like, well, thoughts and prayers. And she's like, I put myself out there and then nothing happened. Right. And so that's why part of our mission is to support those who are in a position to support caregivers. So if you see somebody asking for help, just realize that it probably took them a lot of guts to ask for that help and show up, to be like, bring them, even if you're not a cook, right? Send them a DoorDash gift card, use your skill set. So I have a friend who's a handyman and he was like, can we bring you dinner? And I was like, no, but you could come fix this thing,
Yeah.
And so it doesn't always have to be that casserole. It's going to benefit everybody in your family if you let others come in and help. But then supporters, you got to be ready to show up and help them feel seen. It hurts so much to put out the ask and then just have crickets. Or I had a caregiver the other day who said, someone said, can I do anything for you? And she said, there's some food items that I can't get delivered. Could you pick these up the next time you're at the store? And instead of saying, of course, her friend then went on to grill her about, well, why can't you get them delivered? And what about this? And it's like, no, 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 that's not what she needed. Just say,
No.
yes, I would love to do that for you. So yeah, it's a two-way street for sure.
Yeah. And I'm sure you have podcast episodes walking
Yes,
people through. We also
exactly.
do. So if you are
Yes.
in that space where you're like, I have people in my life who I want to support, I just don't know how,
Yes.
check out some of our previous
Yeah.
episodes. Check out the Negative Space podcast. There are
Yes,
resources that you can
please.
educate yourself on. So,
Exactly. And we actually, at the end of every podcast episode, we do a section for supporters. So whatever topic we're talking about, we're like, how can supporters take this concept and use it to help the caregivers in your life? So we have that right embedded in because it's so important. Yeah.
yeah. Well, Allison, what other things should we know about the negative space?
The website is thenegativespace.life. We're on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. I would say just start following along, right? No matter what season of life you're in, if you follow along on social media, then it's sort of there. It's in the background. We share tips and tricks on social media for supporters and for caregivers. And even maybe if you're not in the thick of it right now, that way, if there's a moment when you are, you're not thinking like, what was that name? What was that thing? Right. And so we know that when we're in the thick of it, we are not in our thinking brain. It's hard to remember and to do those things. So just sort of like follow along so that it's kind of this pulse in the background. I coached someone the other day and I said, how did you find us? And she said, I've just been kind of quietly following on Facebook. And then I just realized it's time. It's time. I need more support than just following on Facebook. And so, but it was because she was following along. So I think that that's the best thing to do is just, or sign up for the newsletter, something that sort of keeps it front of mind so that when you or someone in your life needs the support, you've kind of got it at your fingertips and can refer them in that way.
Yeah, I love that. And we will put that information to find the negative space in our show notes. So as you're listening to this or right after this episode, just click a couple links. Allison, thank you so much for sharing about the work that you're doing, but also thank you for doing this work. It sounds so impactful and born out of a place of need.
Yeah.
And giving people a permission slip is just such a beautiful mission. So thank you.
Absolutely. And same to you. I think that both of these organizations are just doing such good work in the world. And I love that we come at it from different angles. And so working together is such a beautiful partnership so that we can support all sides of the family. So thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.